Hey everybody, in this tutorial we're going to use the property of equality to solve the equations below, and then we're going to check the results. Now the property of inequality just basically says whatever you do to one side, then you got to do it to the other side, okay? So let's kind of see how that's going to work for these three problems that we're given here. So the first thing that I have is negative 20 is equal to negative 4. Now the goal of this problem is to find a value of s that if I multiply it by negative 4, I'm going to get negative 20. But let's see how we solve this using algebra. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to rewrite this where my variable is going to be on my left hand side and my constant's going to be on my right hand side. That's just a quirk of mine. You don't have to do that. Now, in order to solve for s, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to get rid of that negative 4. And the way that I'm going to get rid of that negative 4 is just divide it out. Because if I divide it out, what's going to happen is it's going to cancel in both the numerator and the denominator, and it's just going to leave me with s. And if I take negative 20 and I divide it into negative 4, then if I divide two negatives, then I'm going to have a positive. And if I take 20 and divide it into 4, then that's going to give me 5. So according to the algebra we just did, then s should equal 5. Now if I go back over here and I plug 5 in for s, if I multiply that by negative 4, then that's going to give me my negative 20. So let's go ahead and let's see how that works. This is how we're going to check our answer. So negative 4 times 5, negative 4 times 5, that's negative 20. And my right hand side equals my left hand side. So we know we did the algebra right. So for our very first problem here, our answer is going to be s equals 5. Now let's go ahead and let's come down here. In this particular one, we've got 3x equals 51. So what we need to do is find the value of x that when we multiply it by 3, we're going to get 51. So I go through the same thing. Whatever I do on one side, I do on the other side. I need to get x by itself, and in order to get x by itself, then I'm going to need to divide out the 3 on each side. By doing that, the 3 in the numerator and denominator cancels. That just leaves me with x. And if I take 51 divided into 3, then I'm going to get 17. Now if I go back to my original problem, which was 3x equals 51, and I take x and I stuff it in, I take our value of 17 for x and I stuff it in there, then I get 3 times 17, that's going to give me 51. My left hand side equals my right hand side, so I know that the answer for this particular problem is x equals 17. Now in the third problem here, it's just a little bit different because notice that we have a fraction. And whenever you have a fraction, one of the things that you can do is you can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of that fraction. So let's first of all talk about what a reciprocal is. The problem starts out as 2/3 x equals 51. Well, if I multiply both sides by the reciprocal is just nothing more than 2/3 flipped. So let's multiply both sides by, if I flip 2/3, then I'm going to get the fraction 3/2. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3/2. And the other thing we're going to do, we're going to take our whole number 51 and we're going to turn that into a fraction by just putting a 1 in the denominator. Now, the reason why you multiply any number by its reciprocal, you get a product of 1, is because notice what happens. The 3's cancel through cross cancellation, the 2's cancel, and that's just going to give me a product of 1. Well, now we have 1 times x, and 1 times x is just going to be x. And 51 times 3 is going to be 153 divided by 2. In other words, 51 times 3, whenever you're multiplying fractions, numerator times numerator, 51 times 3, 153, then denominator times denominator, 1 times 2, that's just going to give you 2. So our x value is 153 over 2. Now let's go back over here and plug it in and see if it works. So we've got 2/3, an x value of 153 divided by 2. And let's see what happens over here. So the 2's are going to cancel. And if I take 153 and I divide it by 3, then I'm going to get 51. So since my left-hand side equals my right-hand side, then our value here is 51. So find some more of these in your math book. Make sure you practice. And until next time, talk to all of you later. Bye-bye.